The Church of Rock.
We've been excited all week for our interview, and of course, we are happy to announce we have another member of the Plasmatics. I'm a lifelong fan of the band, and we've, over the 23 years we've been on the air, I was fortunate enough to be able to speak to Wendy O and Richie Stotts and Wes Beach, T.C. Tolliver and Gene Boivier. So many great people, but tonight, the original drummer for the Plasmatics is on the phone. STU DEUTSCH, thank you for being here. Hello?
Hello.
Oh, how's it going, Stu?
It's going good. How about you?
It's pretty good. You sound good, man.
You like cut out a little bit.
Is that better now?
A little bit better. If you can make it a bit louder.
Yeah, my phone's kind of screwy. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, remember, I'm the drummer. My hearing is not that great.
I do relate, man. I really do. So you're in New York City?
I'm actually in Long Island.
Okay, yeah. You're a lifelong New Yorker, I'm guessing.
Well, I was born in Chicago. I lived there till I was about 10, and then, we moved to New York.
Yeah, that's my old stomping grounds, Peoria, Illinois, about 2 hours south of Chicago.
Right.
You know, the Plasmatics has always been one of my favorite bands ever since the band started. Always one of the most unique bands in rock and roll history, in my opinion, and very glad to have you here. Do you do many interviews?
Not really. I actually talked to Richie Stotts yesterday, but I trying to remember the last interview I did had to be about 40 years ago.
Wow, I'm so stoked to have you on, man.
Yeah, thank you.
So
I think the last one I did was Rodney Binghamheimer in Los Angeles.
Wow.
The last interview I did. You're
talking about Rodney on the Rock.
Right.
That's pretty cool, man. I'm happy to have you. How is Richie Stotts doing, by the way, these days?
He's doing fine. You know, we catch up every couple months. He lives in Brooklyn, so, you know, we've seen each other over the last few years.
Yeah, and
he's the only one I really, keep in contact, that close contact with.
And how about Wes Beach? Do you talk to him often?
Well, I did talk to him, obviously, a few months ago, and he, when he asked me if I would do your show, and I said I would, and so I guess it went on from there. So I did talk to Wes a couple months ago.
Nice, man. And, you were in the very first incarnation of the Plasmatics. How did that come about? How did you first come in contact with Rod and Wendy?
Well, in the olden days, there used to be a magazine called The Village Voice.
Yeah.
And The Village Voice had a segment of, in the newspaper where musicians wanted. And everybody at the time, Bruce Springsteen advertised for a drummer after Vinnie Mad Dog Lopez left. Meat Lovett, advertised for drummers. I mean, Kiss. I mean, everybody that needed a musician went through there. And there was an ad, something about loud, fast drummer needed. And I answered the ad. It was May 1978 that I remember.
Wow. Crazy. How many other people answered that ad, do you know?
Oh, there were quite a few at the auditions. The auditions, I was called back twice before I got the gig.
Wow. Where did you guys audition at?
It was in New York City. I don't remember the exact studio.
Were you like given songs to play ahead of time, or did you show up and just...
No.
Oh, I see. So just on the spot, huh?
Yeah, there were, it was, and don't forget it was Richie and Chose. Chose was the bass player.
Yeah.
So, they played a few things, and I played along. And then, Richie asked Chose to sit down for a minute, and then Richie wanted to run through some other stuff with me, and that was the first time. Then the second time I ran through the stuff, Rod was there the first time. I don't remember seeing Wendy. Wendy was there the second and the third time. The third time when I got the gig.
Interesting.
And then once it was down between me and another drummer, and once I had it, we were in the studio, and right away we started working on a set.
Wow.
After I got the audition, passed the audition.
That's really cool. When you first met Wendy, what kind of impression did you get from her as a human?
She was a very nice, sweet girl. I really didn't think you know, at that time we were learning the songs. Nobody said Wendy was the singer or anything, but until, you know, we started working on the songs. And then, you know, obviously we worked on all the music first before Wendy would come in and start singing, before the lyrics were written by my ex-manager, Rod Swenson.
Interesting.
So it was just the music first.
Right. Did you find it easy to work with those guys, with Richie and company?
Oh, yes. You know, I had been playing for a long time, so, you know, I could pretty much play, you know, any style of music. So this was, you know, also the songs just kept getting faster over the years from what it was in the beginning.
You know, what were those early shows like? I'm sure they were completely crazy and intense, but it being that you guys were kind of radical and the first bands to be like you were doing, what was that like, man, to see like the transformation of like cover rock bands into like what you guys were doing? What was that like in like CBGBs and all those early shows?
Yeah, I have to say the first, you know, 3-4 shows were all at CBGBs. Our first gig was on a Tuesday night at CBGB's, which was audition night. And, you know, Rod knew Hilly, who was the owner of CBGB's. So we came in sort of unannounced, and we did, I think, 4 songs, you know. That was on audition night. And then the next time we opened for somebody, but I don't really remember who it was that we opened for. You know, Hilly would have like four bands or more on any given night. So the second show, we opened for somebody, I don't remember who it was. And then I think by the third show, we were headlining, but it was like on a Tuesday or Wednesday night. And I think one of those songs, Want You Baby, is on that disc, that DVD disc that was released not too long ago by Rod,
right,
from July. But the first show was in, you know, the audition show was in May in 1978.
How many shows do you think you might have played with the Plasmatics in your entire tenure with them?
A few hundred. I was there, you know, for about 3 full years. So
wow, that's a lot of shows.
I left around May 1981, May 1981. So from May 78 through May 1981, that's April 1981, that was, there were quite a few shows.
What made you leave the band, can I ask, Stu?
Yes, you can. Let's see. Well, our contract ran out. We had an original 3-year contract. And I wasn't going to sign it, neither was John. And I just decided, you know, it was a good time to leave. And I had friends in Los Angeles. I was moving out there, and I was, you know, going to try to find a band and stuff out there. So we came back from Europe. We did a bunch of shows, and then I went in and talked to Rod and said, you know, I was leaving. And he said, well, it's not a good time. We're doing the second album next week. And I told him I really didn't want to do the second album. Okay? And he wasn't happy, but then he said, well, would you do another month of shows? And I said, I'll do that. Then he also asked if I would do the TV shows, and I said I would do that too.
Wow.
So that's how that happened.
Which was your favorite part of the recording of the first album?
Well, Jimmy Miller, Jimmy Miller had a great history, and I was very excited to work with him. You know, during a period of time, you know, the mid to late 60s and through the 70s, every top album he was the producer on. I mean, he did all the Stones hits, pretty much. He did Blind Faith. He did Traffic. That's where he got started, doing the Traffic albums with Stevie Winwood.
Yeah.
Then he did Blind Faith. I think, you know, there was so many, and we were one of the last bands he did. And before us, he did Motorhead. And I remember when I first met him, you know, and I was staying at my brother's place in the city, and we walked home one night, and he lived nearby. He says, "Come in for a second." And he came into two Motorhead albums. He says, "Yeah, listen to the drummer, Filthy." I said, "Okay," you know, because he had a double bass drum set as well, and he played it a different way. So it was very good working with Jimmy Miller.
Wow, I bet you the Motorhead albums were just like a mind blower when you first heard them, because I know that's how it was for me when I first heard Motorhead.
Yeah. Derek, I'm sorry, you're cutting out a little bit. If you can tune it up a little bit more.
Sure.
Please.
Yeah, I think Filthy Animal as a drummer was completely awesome from Motorhead.
Oh, yeah. He had a good driving way of playing. And go ahead.
Do you have favorite drummers? Do you have any inspirational drummers?
Well, yeah, I grew up, I was a tremendous Who fan. I mean, I've seen them, I would say maybe 36 times, and only once without Keith Moon. Keith Moon was it for me.
Wow.
And I know my style was a lot different than his, but, just watching him, like when they used to play the Fillmore East out here, and they would play a week, I would go to, if they played a week, that's 14 shows, and I would go to most of them.
Wow. Yeah.
And I saw them so many times. I memorized their stuff, and it was just exciting every time to watch The Who. Yeah. And later on, when we went to England, we were supposed to play Hammersmith Odeon. We actually got to rehearse at their Shepperton Studios. And the day before, that's a good story too. The day before we left to go to London for the week, right?
Yeah.
I went to Manny's, which was a big music store in New York. I actually worked there later on, but I went there to pick up a pile of sticks, and who's there but Entwistle?
Wild.
And we were on the cover of a magazine, Wendy was anyway, so I went over to Entwistle, and I had no idea I was going to play in his studio. But I went over, and I showed him the newspaper, I think it was the Aquarian, and Wendy was on the cover, and I said, well, this is my band, we're going to England tomorrow. Oh, he said, very nice, and he signed over Wendy's picture, and I have it somewhere. But
wow,
he was in town because that's when The Kids Are All Right came out that weekend, and he was the producer director of that show, that movie or something, the musical director.
Yeah.
So he was in town to promote that movie. So that was Saturday afternoon, and Sunday morning we left to go to London.
Wild. What about the Pier show? The time you guys played outside when Wendy did the infamous driving the car into the river, I think it was the Hudson.
Yeah, it was September 12th, 1980. We rehearsed a lot for that, and they built a stage. And unbeknownst to us, we didn't know till we got there, but there were barrels of gasoline under the stage for when the explosions were going to go off.
Oh, man.
And they have, if you saw the Pier movie, and I'm sure you have, they got the fire department there, and they're testing everything, and the crowd couldn't be within a few hundred feet of the stage.
Right.
The stage was loaded. I mean, the whole place was loaded with explosives. And we arrived by helicopter because there were about 20,000 people there. There was nowhere we could have gotten in any other way. And, Wendy drove the car in, and the car was supposed to stop, and it didn't. It just kept going into the Hudson. And that was part of the deal. We had to fish the car out after landing in the Hudson River. So, but that's when the stage exploded, and that was the end of that thing.
That had to have been one really intense show, I imagine.
It was something when you arrive by helicopter at a show and you see all those people.
It's like
it was pretty astounding.
It's like the punk rock Beatles or something.
I don't know about that, but it was quite a spectacle.
I hate to ask you sad stuff, but what were your feelings when Wendy passed away, Stu? I know we were all sad, but was it a shock to you like it was to all of us?
Yeah, I was driving in the morning, and I listened to the news, and all of a sudden I hear Butcher Baby on the AM channel. And I thought there was something wrong with my radio, or I was hallucinating in the morning. And I'm listening, and then it said, Wendy passed away. And when I got to work, I had all of these calls waiting for me. People wanted interviews, and the only one I talked to Richie, and they set up the show at CBGB's for the Wendy Memorial reunion concert.
Yeah.
that we did.
How was that? How was the remote memorial show? Was that a good turnout?
Well, it was by invitation only. It wasn't like for the public.
Okay.
It was the last time I saw Joey Ramone. He came, and there were some interviews and people from, record companies and, different DJs from across the country were there. It was, sort of melancholy. It was a sad show, but it was good to see everybody and play with Richie, John, and Wes again. And they did the vocals.
Were you involved when they did the thing with Cherie Curie?
No.
Okay. Interesting. When's the last time you actually played with the Plasmatics? What was the last gig you did?
I think my last actual concert was the day before Reagan was shot, because I remember waking up in the morning and seeing that on TV. Reagan and Brady being shot by Hinckley.
Wow.
So I think it was Springfield, Massachusetts, I want to say, but I did TV shows after that, though. I did the Tom Snyder show.
Yeah, that was great.
And something else.
Didn't you guys do Tom Snyder twice?
I wasn't on the second one. I was only on the first.
Yeah, what was that experience? Pretty intense, being on the old Snyder show?
Yeah, I could. That's sort of a funny story personally for me. I have a cousin, I won't give his name, but he was a pretty famous reporter for the London Times. And he was on about 6 months before, when Maggie Thatcher was elected. And my grandmother calls me up and she says, "Quick, turn on this show. Your cousin is on. You'll never get on this show. You'll never get on this show. Watch your cousin on this TV show." And 6 months later, I was on that show.
Wow.
For a different reason than for my cousin, but,
Crazy world, man. That's so wild, man. I love hearing the stories. I could talk to you and Wes and all day long about the Plasmatics and like the old rock and roll days and stuff. And I sure do appreciate the music you put out during, the stuff you did with them. And New Hope for the Wretched is such a just awesome record. Do you have any favorite songs on that record?
Tight Black Pants was always our opener. And I think we've played that song, 50,000 times. But I do like Sometimes and I always liked Dream Lover. Because Dream Lover, I got to do, the drum intro and stuff. So
that was great.
So, and Sometimes I was like our only, in quotations, slow song. So, those songs, those three are favorites.
Yeah, those are so great, man. We're definitely going to play. We were going to play "Butcher Baby" tonight from the very first full 7-inch you guys had done in '81, I believe. Sister Tracy, I think that's what it was. But we're going
the first EP, the Butcher Baby EP, was we did it in '78. It was
right.
Me, Richie Chaussee, and Wendy.
Yes,
I think it was produced by Tommy Ramone.
I did not know that. Interesting, man. I didn't know that fact. Well, hey, you know what, Stu? It's been a real pleasure having you on, man. I can't believe that you came on. I've been trying for a couple of years. It's an honor to talk to you, man.
As you know, I don't do this very often.
I know. But we're big Wendy and Plasmatics fanatics, and it's just really cool to have you on. I want to say thanks a million, for making the time. We're almost out of time, but I wanted to say, again, thanks to West Beach for orchestrating this for us. And, Sister Tracy's she knows I'm a Plas fanatic. She's just kind of letting me do my thing here with you.
Yeah, I do have real quick, I'll give you, when we were doing the early rehearsals, I came in one day and Wendy asked me, "Hey, would you like to know the name of the band?" And I said, "Sure." And she said, "The Plasmatics." And I said, "Oh, okay." Because I sort of assumed that it would be Wendy and, whatever the band name was. And I was pleased that it was, a full encompassing band name.
Oh, yes.
So
that is cool.
That was, that's how I found it. I mean, we were rehearsing for like a week or so. And, it never came up.
Of course,
Wendy just told me what the band name was going to be.
Well, and then later on, of course, after you were out of the band, they ended up calling it just Wendy O. Williams, so it's wild how that happened later.
Yeah, well, after I left, what did I have? Like 4 or a half a dozen other drummers and
Yeah.
a bunch of bass players and all that. Once, that original band, John left about 6 months after I did. 6 weeks after I did. And then Richie left about a year and a half later, and that was pretty much the end of the band. It was just Wendy and Wes. And Wes wasn't an original. We were around for about a year before Wes joined.
Lots of history there, lots of recordings, and I really appreciate you guys, all of your different, parts of the Plasmatics, and I love those early years, dude. Thanks again, Stu, for sending me the autograph photos and being cool enough to come on our show. And I just want to say good luck to you, whatever you do in the future, and hope to talk to you down the road, man.
All right, thank you, Derek, and thank you, everybody in Radio Land on your broadcast.
I appreciate it so much. Sister Tracy's got the music queued up. Stu Deutsch, everyone, okay. Thanks so much.
It's been my pleasure.
Yep, take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Stu.